Ladies and gentlemen, Britain is back on the world stage, working with our partners, doing deals that will grow our economy and putting more money in the pockets of working people. In the last 2 weeks alone, we've delivered trade deals with India and the US. And that means jobs saved, jobs created, more growth, and a huge vote of confidence in this country. It shows that as global instability is rising, the decisions that we've taken to stabilise the economy and lead the way internationally have made Britain a place where people want to do business once again. And from that position of strength, today we have struck this landmark deal with the EU, a new partnership between an independent Britain and our allies in Europe. This is the first UK-EU summit. It marks a new era in our relationship. And this deal is a win-win. It delivers what the British public voted for last year. It gives us unprecedented access to the EU market, the best of any country outside of the EU or EFTA, all while sticking to the red lines in our manifesto about not rejoining the...
One from Scottish who says, "Morning, Mike. Surely this man can't last till the summer. Could you even go as far as to say he's a dictator? Hate for Starmer is off the scale. Have a great day." I mean, that is one thing that you cannot change about the way the people of this country think. You know, we're a very forgiving nation. We're a very tolerant nation. But when we see somebody like Keir Starmer absolutely ripping it out of us, you know, we are not happy. And people really do dislike him. He is the most hated Prime Minister, I think, in my lifetime that I can remember. I don't remember anybody having these feelings, even about Margaret Thatcher when she was in.
And he does it all in such a robotic way.
Yes.
Because I'm really quite astounded. But there seems to be, what lacks from Starmer is warmth, compassion, likability.
Yes.
Those kind of things when you meet someone, you might...
like human traits.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But he does literally seem to be like a robot.
Yeah.
Completely, the way he speaks, the way he acts, his lack of emotion.
Yeah. And also the way
bizarre.
he kind of interacts with people as well. You know, you see this from Hev, who says Starmer is just working at what he wants, sod the country and everyone else. He is a sneaky, backstabbing traitor to the British. Keir Starmer should be called Darth Utrendus, master of gradual betrayal and shadow deals, says Tanya in London. It is absolutely right. Can the public vote for no confidence in this idiotic government, or does it have to be passed by Parliament, says Peter? Well, it's a very good question.
Keir Starmer's carefully managed EU strategy has just been smashed apart by the Supreme Court. In a landmark decision, the UK's highest judges ruled that Starmer's government broke constitutional rules by trying to bring Britain closer to the EU, without consulting Parliament or the public. It wasn't just a policy setback, it was a political gut punch. The ruling exposed months of secret dealings with European officials that had bypassed democratic checks entirely. While Starmer presented these actions as harmless economic cooperation, the court saw them for what they were: unlawful attempts to realign with EU laws behind closed doors. The verdict...
From Harry Cole, who says to me today that only one side of these negotiations is leaking the details of them. I can only assume from that that it's not the government.
Yes, that fishing deal, 12 years, the Europeans very pleased with that. Reciprocal rights, so you can get French boats, Spanish boats fishing in our waters, and in return Keir Starmer hoping to get that agreement on food and agricultural so that...
has lit a fuse in Westminster. Within hours, rival parties were in full attack mode. The Conservatives framed it as proof Starmer can't be trusted. Reform UK claimed it confirmed everything they'd warned voters about. And within Labour itself, tensions exploded. Furious MPs say they were never told how deep this plan went, or how close Starmer came to dragging the UK back into the EU through the side door. His leadership now faces its most serious crisis yet. For months, Starmer's team had been quietly laying the groundwork for what they called pragmatic cooperation with the EU. But behind the soft language was a bold, risky plan. His advisors were working on a regulatory realignment, reconnecting the UK with EU rules on trade, product standards and the
I
environment.
see him when he's with people that he clearly feels comfortable with. He's got this kind of strange smile on his face, like he's on drugs or something, right? And then when he's with people who he can't stand or who he doesn't feel comfortable with, he looks really uncomfortable.
Yeah, and abrasive.
And abrasive.
Yeah.
And you saw him last week in Prime Minister's Questions when he was asked a question by that woman from Plaid Cymru, and he was really rude to her. He can't stand being questioned on things that he doesn't think he should be questioned on.
But
a bit like Gary Lineker.
Well, and again, you see, Starmer has spent so much of his working life being in charge.
Yeah.
You know, in charge of the CPS when he was Director of Public Prosecutions. You know, in charge of the Labour Party.
Yeah.
In charge of the country. Oh, I don't believe I just said that.
Yeah.
But he is.
Yeah.
And maybe he's done that
Well,
in a style
let me misquote somebody else by saying he's in office, but he's not in power. Because he's basically, any power that he did have, which wasn't much, he's now given away. So he is technically in charge of the UK, but actually he's now no longer in charge of anything.
And all the polls show that he's absolutely tanking.
Yeah.
In terms of
his approval
trust,
ratings,
popularity,
through the
approval
floor.
ratings. Yeah.
Absolutely through the floor.
Yeah.
The plan avoided any talk of rejoining. There was no public vote, no open debate, and not even a whisper to many in Parliament. Instead, the changes were being folded into trade discussions and foreign policy briefings, masked as technical adjustments. But when legal experts reviewed the plan, the verdict was simple. This wasn't diplomacy, it was a constitutional overstep. The Supreme Court agreed. It ruled that major changes to Britain's post-Brexit framework must go through Parliament. Starmer's government had tried to sneak those changes through by using executive powers, and that, the court said, was a violation of democratic norms. What looked like a quiet reset with Europe has now exploded into a national scandal, and the worst part for Labour? It wasn't an accident, it was a strategy. One that's now in ruins. The moment the ruling dropped, Labour headquarters went into meltdown. Advisors scrambled to manage the fallout, but it was too late. Inside the party, confusion turned to fury as MPs demanded answers. Many say they had no idea this EU alignment plan had even gone so far. Some of the proposals had already been signed off in preliminary talks with European officials, without party...
Talk about Europe, because that's going to be the big story today as well. Keir Starmer inviting, again, loads of European leaders into Britain for a UK summit. I mean, he had a summit with them all at the back end of last week in Albania, where it all went horribly wrong for him, because he announced that basically on the same stage as the Albanian Prime Minister, we're going to be sending some people to a third country, Albania, starting soon. We're working on the deal. And even literally in the same breath, the Albanian Prime Minister said, no, we're not. We're not doing that. We do a deal with Italy. We're not doing it with the UK. We promise not to do it with anybody else. I mean, it was, quite frankly, it was cringe-makingly bad. But he's going to have another go today, bringing in all these EU leaders. And, of course, the European Union only wants one thing from Britain, and that's to continue taking the mickey out of this country and continuing to rape it and rob it and completely rip it off. It's a Brexit...
widely approval. Shadow cabinet members claimed they were fed vague talking points about economic stability. But the reality was a sweeping policy shift, crafted in secret by a small circle of Starmer's closest allies. Inventive leaks now confirm it wasn't just a misunderstanding, it was a deliberate strategy called regulatory convergence through administrative cooperation. A phrase designed to avoid public scrutiny, the documents show Starmer personally approved early drafts. Now, with that strategy exposed and declared unlawful, Labour MPs in Leave voting areas are in revolt. They say they campaigned on respecting Brexit only to discover their leader was doing the opposite. Trust inside the party is collapsing fast, and the calls for accountability are getting louder by the hour. Behind the scenes, Labour's internal discipline is cracking. What started as angry phone calls has turned into full-scale rebellion. Senior MPs are privately circulating letters of no confidence. Others are demanding an emergency meeting to question the leadership directly. The backlash isn't coming from fringe groups or ideological rivals, it's from the core of the party. Red Wall MPs, union-backed moderates, and long-time loyalists who now feel betrayed. For them, the issue isn't just about Europe, it's about trust. Starmer made decisions without consulting the party, then allowed them to spiral into legal disaster. Constituency Labour branches are now cancelling local campaign events. Some are openly refusing to canvass for the general election unless there's transparency and accountability. Others have begun passing motions condemning Starmer's conduct. Even figures who've defended Starmer in the past are going silent. Angela Rayner's allies say she's furious she wasn't consulted. Lisa Nandy is quietly testing the waters with colleagues. And West Streeting is said to be having private conversations with donors. The fear now is that this won't just damage Labour's election chances, it could break the party in two. The opposition didn't waste a second. The Conservatives launched an immediate digital assault, flooding social media with sharp attack ads, branding Starmer a liar who tried to reverse Brexit in secret. Billboards popped up overnight in key battlegrounds with a single message. He tried to take us back into the EU, only the court stopped him. In Leave voting towns across the North and Midlands, the campaign is hitting hard. Focus groups already show voters repeating phrases like EU betrayal and backdoor rejoin. Labour's support among working-class voters is slipping fast, and in some areas collapsing entirely, while Nigel Farage and Reform UK have roared back into relevance. At a rally in Sunderland, Farage framed the ruling as a patriotic victory. His party has seen a surge in membership and online engagement since the decision. For disillusioned voters who once gave Labour another chance, Reform is now offering itself as the true defender of Brexit. The right-wing press is pouring fuel on the fire. Front pages are dominated by headlines accusing Starmer of betrayal, deception and elite arrogance. The damage is no longer political theory, it's measurable, and it's growing. The crisis isn't just playing out in Parliament, it's exploding across the country. Local Labour groups are furious. Constituency parties in Leave voting areas have started passing formal condemnations of Starmer's actions. Some have even halted campaign activities until they get answers. In Wales and Scotland, the backlash is just as fierce. Welsh Labour leaders are demanding to know why they were kept in the dark about EU policies that could impact regional trade. In Scotland, the SNP is seizing the moment, claiming this proves that no Westminster party, not even Labour, can be trusted to act transparently. Even London isn't immune. Sadiq Khan has gone uncharacteristically quiet, reportedly frustrated that international trade decisions affecting his city were made without consultation. Labour's ground campaign is faltering. Candidates in traditionally safe seats like Stoke and Hartlepool are reporting angry voters, confused volunteers, and a complete lack of guidance from headquarters. Campaign teams are begging for help, talking points, damage control, anything, but finding only silence. And that silence is deafening. As Labour's support crumbles and panic spreads, Keir Starmer has stayed silent. No press conference, no televised address, just a vague written statement about respecting the court's decision, while the party spirals out of control. That silence has made things worse. Inside the shadow cabinet, senior figures are now openly demanding answers. Some want a full disclosure of what Starmer knew and when. Others are calling for a public apology. A few are even discussing succession in case the crisis becomes irreversible. Rayner, Lisa Nandy, and West Streeting are already being floated as potential replacements. Streeting in particular has been making quiet moves, meeting with donors and testing support among backbenchers. Starmer's refusal to engage is feeding a new narrative, that he's not just guilty of overreach, but of cowardice. Every day he stays quiet, the perception hardens that he led a secret campaign to reverse Brexit and now doesn't have the courage to face the fallout. The party isn't just questioning his judgment anymore, they're questioning his leadership. Keir Starmer may still hold the title of Labour leader, but his grip on power is slipping fast. The Supreme Court ruling didn't just kill his EU strategy, it shattered the image of steady leadership that had kept Labour united and competitive. How, with the Conservatives on the offensive, Reform UK gaining momentum, and Labour's own members in open revolt, the party faces a brutal reckoning. The voters who back Starmer for his promise of integrity, defender of Brexit. The right-wing press is pouring fuel on the fire. Front pages are dominated by headlines accusing Starmer of betrayal, deception and elite arrogance. The damage is no longer political theory, it's measurable, and it's growing. The crisis isn't just playing out in Parliament, it's exploding across the country. Local Labour groups are furious. Constituency parties in Leave voting areas have started passing formal condemnations of Starmer's actions. Some have even halted campaign activities until they get answers. In Wales and Scotland, the backlash is just as fierce. Welsh Labour leaders are demanding to know why they were kept in the dark about EU policy. Now see secrecy. The MPs who defended him now feel betrayed, and the general election that once seemed within reach it's suddenly in danger of becoming a disaster? The question isn't just whether Starmer can win, it's whether he can even survive the next few weeks without his party turning on him completely. And if this is the beginning of the end, it won't be a quiet fall. It'll be a collapse played out in headlines, polls, and the stunned silence of those who thought Labour had finally found its way back.